Hallo und herzlich willkommen bei Global We Medien. Ich bin Aminata.
Und ich bin Cynthia.
Heute haben wir zwei Gäste aus Potsdam, über die wir uns sehr gefreut haben.
Es ist toll, dass ihr euch erstmal die Zeit genommen habt, nach Berlin zu fahren.
Euer Verein heißt Refugees
Emancipation.
Ja, genau, das ist ganz schwierige Wort. Erzähl mal, was macht ihr so und wer seid ihr?
Ich glaube, bevor wir erzählen, was wir machen und was wir sind, vielleicht erzählt er eben ein bisschen von Geschichte von Refugees Emancipation.
Okay, Emma said it. My name is Chu Eben, and actually I came here to Germany as a refugee in 1998, and I was sent to in Eisenhüttenstadt, where I did the asylum process. And so, you know, we realized that the situation was not exactly what we thought in context of how do we integrate and how do we, you know, live in Germany like any other person. So we started asking questions, and through those questions we got involved with some young people, students. But then we realized that most of the time, you know, we were being pulled to go and do demonstrations, but we did not really understand the context of the law. So by the year 2000, we decided to start an organization called Refugees Emancipation. And the idea was more about how do we ourselves not only be active on demonstration days, but how do we, you know, learn what is the context in which we are living.
Was genau hat euch dazu geführt, den Namen auszuwählen und keinen anderen Namen?
We wanted refugees to, and we did not think that participation is only on one active day. We feel that participation should be a process, and it should start where the refugees live, and they should be able to have a space within that where they live to make analysis of their situation and to see how they can, you know, bring out their own methodic in how they can protest or maybe participate in the civil society. So the name Emancipation, actually, if you hear Refugees Emancipation, is actually the concept, which is the participation of the refugee in context of his analysis and participating in bringing solution to the refugee problem. So that's how we came out with the name. Then, so the whole process, if you hear Refugees Emancipation, it already tells you what the organization is all about. It's about self-organization and participation.
Denkt ihr, dass Dekolonialisierung was mit eurer Arbeit zu tun hat?
Of course, I think decolonization has a lot to do with our work. You know, sometimes or most often we criticize the German asylum system, that it favors some refugees and defavors other refugees. So we see mostly refugees from the sub-Saharan Africa who are the least privileged. And when you go a little bit beyond, you realize that the asylum laws themselves are very racist. They have a background of this colonial prejudice, or colonial, how will you put it, mentality of looking low on some races. So you see the laws themselves are very racist. So we are fighting that these laws, which we think are very old laws, they are built from a very racist mentality. So we are trying to draw attention to the fact that people from certain areas are most disadvantaged due to the already very racist laws that exist. So I think decolonization is something we are trying to say should happen to the asylum laws and in other fields. So we are very much affected by the term.
So the whole process of asylum is to make life difficult for you so that you can live yourself. So Germany could develop a Wohnungspolitik. For example, they could say anybody who's been 1 year in a camp is allowed to get a house, or 6 months, I'm coming.
Okay. Does allow signify that there will be housing for all those people who are being allowed?
No. Allow means that you can look for the house yourself. That's what allow means. But they don't allow you to look for the house. You have to go through an administrative, bureaucratic process, which we know is selective. And we have seen in some camps, they even have what you call checklist. They look at the character. Are you friendly to Germans? Do you speak German? Hiddenly in the hands, they have this checklist that the Heim administration ticks before the Auslander beholder gives you. They communicate with the social. They say, this one likes German, this one can be good in our society. It's the divide and rule, we all know that. So the camp is a policy. It's not a kind of like, because there's no housing, it's a manipulation. And this is a difference between taking what you call the official narrative and the perspective of the refugees. That's why we made refugees movements, because we realized that there are many things that practically is different from the context of the law. The law says refugees can live in camps, but it did not say the camp should be in the forest.
Maybe just to add for information, so as you know, Brandenburg is one of the states Bundesländer where we are very activist. So there was this remark that most Africans, especially sub-Saharan Africans, are the ones who suffer most from the asylum system. They are the ones who stay longer in the camps. They are the ones who wait for papers for long or get houses last. So it was like, why is it, what's the problem? So we are actually making a research. So we formed a working group. We call it Afrikanische Schutzsuchende mit ungesichertem Aufenthalt, like African refugees with on no documentation. So we are actually, the research is still going on, but from my experience, the people are interviewed already, about 20 people. So it's to find out, is it that the Africans are the most uneducated? Is it that the why is it that they are the ones lagging behind in the integration process? So you find out from my experience with the people I interviewed that racism from the law is the reason why they are most discriminated against, and they are the ones who are disintegrated. So it still brings us to the decolonization, the prejudices on the law. Yeah.
Ist es eigentlich ohne seinen Willen, also ist es erlaubt, dass die Bundespolizei oder die Polizei ohne deren Willen von der Person jemanden einfach abschieben darf? Und wie kann man das vorweisen, dass es nicht erlaubt ist?
Legally, that's what they say, but they don't do that. Most of the time, the asylum process is very complicated. Most of the refugees don't know when the asylum is finished or not, because it's a very complicated process. And the relation between the administration and the refugee in terms of giving him information is almost non-existent. So what happens is that they don't, and the whole asylum process in Germany is what they call discretionary to the Beamte. It's the Beamte that makes a decision. So you don't have much to say about it. Even if you are a truly politically persecuted person in your country, it is the Beamte in Germany that decides, yeah, ich akzeptiere oder nicht.
The issue of moving away from the camp to own your own apartment is a little bit complex. When the refugees come, they go first of all to like a reception center. Depending on the situation, they could be there from a month to a couple of months. And then they're sent to like a refugee home. Normally they call it Übergangswohnheim, like a transition home. Most often refugees stay there averagely like 2-3 years, but some refugees stay even 4 or 5, depending. He stayed 7 years. So it depends now on the status and depending also on the land crisis where you find yourself as a refugee. There are some areas where you must have like a legal status before you can leave the camp to own an apartment. There are some other areas where even without legal documentation you can leave the camp to own an apartment. So as I said, it depends on where you find yourself. Like in Potsdam, for example, there is a general shortages of housing, be it for refugees or even German citizens. So the housing market is very tight. So it makes it even more difficult for you to leave the camp to find an apartment. And you should understand that the refugees, most of them, to leave the camp to go to an apartment, they apply for what they call this Wohnberechtigungsschein, like to have affordable apartment. And these type of apartments are not there are not so many. So they're like social housing for people low income. So in the tight market for housing, you already have another restriction for social housing for people of low income. So that makes it very tight, and it's one of the causes, for example, in Potsdam, where a refugee could stay even longer in the camp. So maybe in other remote areas, it could be a little bit easier. So there are many factors that contributes to refugees staying longer.
I will be very careful in this answer. I can tell you that it's part of this colonial mentality. If you look like what the Ukrainian refugees come, suddenly there was housing for them in chic places.
Don't forget that Ukrainian refugees, at the beginning, they said about 80% of Ukrainians were lodged by private people in Germany.
Yes, but later on, they were lodged by private people, but they have housing. They didn't put them in the camps in the beginning. My point here I want to make is this. The idea of camps is a German colonial mentality, and it started in Africa. If you know the history of Namibia, you will realize that that's where the idea of putting people in camps started. It's a German mentality, colonial mentality to put people in camps. And if you look the whole idea of camps, it is a policy. Because what does camp do? Camps separate you from normal citizens. Camps make it easy for you to be deported. They can come and pick you in the night and take you away without disturbing anybody. If I live in the city center like everybody, and I'm a nice guy, and if they want to deport me, my neighbors will ask, warum? Was hat gemacht? But in the camp, who asks? So, that's 2. 3, they wanted to make life difficult for you so you yourself can live.
I don't think that they should not stay in Heims. The only thing we tell them, as soon as your asylum is expired, it means if you have been rejected, you made an appeal and your appeal has been rejected. So what we sometimes offer as a self-organized group, we offer what we call safe places. We recommend the refugees not to sleep in their official rooms. So sometimes we look for partners who can help them keep them. Because second time rejection means, as he said, you can be taken at any time. So that's why with partners we always have some rooms where refugees with such problems come and stay there. One of our best strategies, which we have done for many refugees when they are faced with a deportation problem, is to offer them safe areas. So thanks to our great network in Brandenburg, we have lots of safe areas. So when a refugee is actually confronted with a deportation problem, we keep him there until everything settles down. We try with the lawyers to find other means. We have kept people, we had these Dublin issues. We kept so many people until the time, because they said when you're in Dublin process, I think it was 18 months or so. So we have kept many refugees for a very long time until they get out of this danger zone of deportation. So as he said, please, you always have to tell other refugees to network, to be able to send alarm when that moment comes. So other people like us will know what to do.
Es hat mich gefreut, dass ihr uns die Zeit genommen habt und bis nach Berlin gefahren seid. Ja, es war ganz interessant.
Dankeschön.
Danke auch.